Let me show you how I made this wooden handle and attached it to the mug. So here's a piece that's already been bisqued. You can see the strategy is going to be to attach the wooden handles or any other sort of handle using these embedded metal pieces that get stuck into the wall. So you just stick them in when it's soft leather hard and close up behind them. Make sure they're oriented right, and they survive firing quite well and feel quite strong. And it may also be worth mentioning that when I install these, I didn't put them straight into the clay. Even though I knew I was going to close up behind them, I didn't want that past opening to be right there in the line of the force it was going to take. So generally when I put them in, I put them up at an angle and then rotated them, kind of hooking them into the wall just as a little extra precaution. So the handle is going to start on the wood lathe, and once I make the centerpiece, we'll jump over to the laser for some layout lines on a piece of cherry wood, and I'll cut those out and drill them and assemble them, and then I'll come right back to you. My goal here is to get rid of any burn marks from the scroll saw, and then to lightly go around and bevel the edges. I'm not going to be routing these pieces, so this will be the final edge treatment besides a little bit of hand sanding. The type of epoxy I'm using is made by a company called System 3. It's T88, T as in Thomas, 88, structural epoxy. You've seen me use it before if you've seen other videos, and it's really, really strong, and I've not been unhappy with using it. So here's where the hand fitting comes in. I had a little bit of a gap, and working it on the belt sander, I was able to get rid of that. The reason I chose to use an oil-based stain rather than a film-building polyurethane is I think you get a better depth of color, and any chatoyance that is in the wood, any kind of natural reflectivity is brought out by using an oil versus a polyurethane. You can see that the Forstner bit I'm using on the drill press is very close to the full width of the cherry board that we're drilling into. There's maybe a 1/16 of an inch on either side, so I had to be very careful not to blow out either side, and it would ruin the handle at this point. There would be no fixing that. We'd have to start over. So I take my time and drill the holes that we need deep enough to fully cover the wire embedment in our cup. So my goal here is to get the holes that I drilled as filled as possible, completely, if possible, with epoxy, so that we get a really good bond with the metal hoops that are coming out of the side of the piece. You can see I spread epoxy over the full face of the cherry wood, thinking that it might help fill gaps. But my hope in terms of strength is really in grabbing those steel wires. And it is January and cold in the shop, so I brought the mug in to help speed up the curing of the epoxy. And here it is done. I've let the wood handle the finish dry for a day or two. I gave it a light steel wool and then finished it with a finishing wax, so it has a nice soft feel to it. Really happy with it. I'd like to do some strength tests and see just how much weight this would hold. I'm quite confident it would break a piece of the cup off if I really put a lot of strain on it. I think the bigger question is going to be, in 6 months or in a year, how's this epoxy holding up? It'd be a real disappointment to make something that you really liked and then have it fail. But this is pretty serious stuff, and the wire embedment I think is going to go a long way. Here's a few more. I didn't put 2 on all of them. I've been putting 1 and 2, and we're going to try them both and watch and see if it really makes any strength difference. And then here's a piece that I had done maybe 2 weeks ago, and actually you can see, oof, it was a fail. It was a test piece. Had some staining here. The blue are 3D printed temporary filling pieces, and then the hardware isn't permanent either. I just wanted to see what the process would be like to put a wooden handle in like this. I think it broke because of some sort of compression. I did not expect any shrinking in this direction with the wood, so I'm not quite sure if it was what. I didn't really tension it when I put in the hardware either. So not sure. We're going to have to keep an eye on that, and so I didn't do it again. But it is why, for this one, the handle, you might look at it and go, wow, that handle's nice, but it's way out there. And it is a little bit. It's probably a 1/4 inch further out than I'd prefer. But I did it because when I first made this one, I really liked it, but I handed it to a few people and they noticed right away, you kind of grip it like this. You kind of hold it on the side of your hand, and it just doesn't have enough room to hold it in front of your fist if you wanted to. I actually liked it. I thought that was a good handle feel, but I got enough feedback that I thought, well, let me at least give you one that you can really grip onto. So again, the cherry wood contrasting with the walnut. I'm glad I didn't go with the lighter wood. I like the two-tone brown versus a real strong contrast. I think it turned out pretty good. You can see a little shine from the epoxy in the cracks, but not bad. I took my time and made sure I cleaned off all the epoxy off of the surface, and anything that dried I was able to go back in with a Scotch-Brite and just remove any, if you had a fingerprint from the epoxy job or something. But worked really good.